Hey everyone, how are we all doing today? I hope we're all doing well. For today's video, we're going to be going over the running stitch. To get started, all you're going to need is a needle, some thread, and a piece of fabric. All right, let's get started. All right, so today, like I said, we're going to be working on the running stitch. So I'm first going to start off by threading my needle. So I'm going to start off by taking an arm's length of thread. Go ahead and cut that with my sewing scissors. I'll grab my needle. Like I said in the last video, I like to hold my needle in one hand, wrap the thread over, and pull it so I get a nice little tight loop. Face the eye of the needle towards me, and then I can go right ahead and insert the thread right into that needle and pull through. I'm going to go ahead and then pull both ends of the thread together. Hold those both in my index finger with my thumb. Wrap around 1 or 2 times and twist off and pull. If you guys need some more guidance on this, feel free to go back to the previous video where we go over how to tie a knot along with how to thread our needle. All right. A running stitch is a very common stitch. We see this kind of stitch most commonly in pillow covers, dresses, scarves, blankets, lampshades, table mats, and bed covers. So when starting a running stitch, along with every stitch, I like to start off by putting the knot on the underside of the fabric. This way, when we have our finished product, we're not able to see the knot on the front. The knot would be on the back side of our work. So we can go ahead. I like to start off putting it right through, and then I can go ahead. And as you can see, the knot is now hidden behind on the underside of the fabric, not on the face of our fabric. So a running stitch consists of an up and down motion. So while we're doing this, we want to keep in mind that we came up. So our next step would be to go through, back up, down, and up. It's going to be that motion throughout the entirety of the running stitch. So I'm starting right here. So for a running stitch, I would like to keep my spacings even. So I'm going to make my first stitch right there. I like to pull it through, make sure that that's where I want it to be, and then I can go ahead and pull through. So now that's my first stitch. So now since my first stitch is there, I'm gonna want my second stitch to come out just about there. So what I like to do is I stick my needle out a little bit and I see where it's gonna come out and I see if that's an appropriate space. So I'm gonna go over a little bit more, maybe right about there. Now I have my needle out and I can go ahead and pull it through. And then that's coming out. So now I'm gonna go right back in, just stick it underneath and pull through. And as you can see, I'm getting a stitch that has these gaps in it, and that is our running stitch. So I'm gonna come out one more time and pull that through. Go over, push that through down, and pull it out. If you're having a hard time going up and down, it's okay to flip your work over each time. So I can just go right through there and then flip my work back over to make my next stitch. When doing a running stitch, it's important to remember the tension in which that we're pulling our stitches through. So as you can see here, when I lay my work down, my fabric is laying straight and my stitches are nice and even. But if I were sewing and pulling the fabric or pulling the thread, you see how it would start to bunch up here. While that may be a desired effect for some projects, this isn't what we want to look for today. So we want to make sure that when we're pulling our needles through, that we're not pulling them too hard, because then it'll pull our whole work together. So from here, I'm going to show you a couple more times. So I have my thread coming out. I'm going to push that in, pull it through, turn it around, push it through, go flip back over, and pull it right back out. All right, so now I have my running stitch. I'm going to show you all how to tie a knot. So the same as the starting knot, our finishing knot, we also want on the back side of our work. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my thread is on the back side of my work. I'm going to flip over. Now to tie a finishing knot, what I like to do is I like to go right underneath my most previous stitch. I pull that up, and then I get a loop here. So now this loop, I'm going to take my needle, wrap around 2 times, and then I'm going to let go of my loop, support my fabric, and pull my thread slowly. What's happening here is a knot's beginning to form in between those 2 stitches, and as I pull, you'll see that it forms a knot. So I can go ahead, cut my thread off, flip back over, and there I have a running stitch. All right, so there we have our running stitch. I'm going to go ahead and do this one more time so I can go show you guys how to do the finishing knot one more time. I'll be right back. All right, let's do that one more time. So I have my needle in my hand. I can go ahead, wrap my thread right over. We can get this needle threaded. Put those 2 ends together, wrap around, pinch and twist, and pull. And that gives me my knot. So we want to remember that our knot is going to start from the back side of our work, not the face of it. So I gotta go ahead, wherever I want to start that stitch, put that right there, and pull through. And as you can see, that knot is now hidden. I go ahead, stick right in, and pull it out. Next stitch, I poke my needle through, I go ahead and pull it out, and right back through. One thing that I would like to point out that you can do, so as you can see on my first line, we're a little off-centered, it's a little wavy. Typically you'd want a nice straight line. So one thing that I suggest that you can do is you can take your ruler, we can line that up, that'll give us our straight line. And then I like to use a water-soluble pencil, and you can go ahead and just lightly draw on your fabric, and that'll give you a line. So if you can see close, I have that line here now that I can use as a guide to ensure that I have a nice straight line as I finish my work. So I have my thread coming out, so we're gonna go back through to the front. Now when I stick my needle through, I wanna make sure that my needle is coming up right on that line. So once it's on that line, I can go ahead, make my stitch, and this will ensure that I have a nice straight line that goes all the way across our work. So I'm going to do 2 more. Just 1. And 2. All right, so now to tie that knot one more time, we're going to flip our work over, hold my thread. I like to place my needle underneath my most previous stitch, push that through, then I'm going to pick my needle up, and now I have a loop on my hands. So now I'm going to take this loop and my needle, I'm going to wrap my needle through that loop 2 times. Now it's wrapped around my needle. Hold the tip of the needle, let go of my loop, now support my fabric, and gently, slowly pull that thread, and that's going to begin to knot and create our finishing knot. You can see our knot is right there. All right, I can go ahead, cut that off. And now I have 2 running stitches on my scrap piece of fabric. All right, well, that's our running stitch. I hope you all had fun. I hope you all learned something. And remember, if you had a hard time threading that needle, feel free to go back to the previous video where we went over how to thread a needle along with how to tie a knot. I hope you guys enjoyed. Look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.